I'm here with Xavier men's head basketball coach, Sean Miller. Thank you, again for your time and jumping on. I know you've talked about this at length, and you're on to the next season. But just if you could talk a little bit about returning to Xavier. I know obviously the biggest difference is them being in the Big East. You guys being a Big East school. Obviously, when you were there, you had a successful career. I think you were 120 and 47 at your time at Xavier, but outside of the conference that Xavier plays in, what's been the biggest difference you've seen since you've been at Arizona at Xavier University?
Well, Nathan, I think number one, Xavier, long before I ever came to this campus, when Bob Stack and Pete Gillen and Skip Prosser, Thad Matta, and then, I think I was next in line after Thad. A long time ago when Xavier played in Cincinnati Gardens that were in different names of conferences, it was a place that always aspired to grow and be better, both as a university, as an athletic department, and then in particular, both the university looking at our basketball program as an important part of what we were going to do moving forward. And it's always been a big priority here. And so with that, the campus is bigger. It's actually much nicer. At one point, it was a small group of buildings in a city. Now it's a beautiful private campus. The basketball program obviously sustained success through many coaches, but the Big East Conference obviously gives us another layer, and I think allows us to even think bigger than we ever have. So, what's changed in 13 years? In some ways, everything. And yet, the one thing that has not changed, and it was the same when I was here the last time, is a quest to improve, to grow, to be better. And I think you really feel that every day that you work here.
Yeah. No, and you had mentioned obviously with the Big East, the opportunities that brings. I know obviously you're at Arizona, but obviously I assume, a college basketball fan, you're aware of what's going on. How impressive do you think it was for you on the outside to see how the Big East, really everything stacked against them, to evolve, to kind of have this rebirth, in 2013. And now, you look at it, it is a power conference when it comes to college basketball. It breeds college basketball. I'm from the East Coast, and that's what I grew up on. And just to see that it's continued that success, how impressive was that? Just to see where, like I said, where they were in 2012, kind of up in thin air, really, what's going to happen, and seeing where it is now.
It's been very impressive. The Big East leadership with Val Ackerman, Stu Jackson. And then when I think of the Big East, you got to remember I played in the Big East Conference 1987 through 1992 when I was a student athlete at Pitt. And that was obviously the old Big East, but the sense of pride and what it felt like to play and participate in Madison Square Garden in early March every year, it's something that now, some 30 years later, that any person that played on the team that I played on or against me, as a competitor in the Big East Conference, we kind of all share in that joy and those great memories. It sticks with you. It sticks with you forever. So just to watch the new Big East be created, I think obviously a lot of people deserve credit, but when I think of it, Villanova and what Jay Wright did as a Hall of Fame coach, winning multiple national championships, and just watching what Villanova became. Certainly, there's many other great storylines in the Big East Conference, but their rise to prominence and what they did as a member of this conference, really, you have to pay tribute to what they did. So I watched that. I certainly respected the Big East from my days as a player, and right now we're in one of the most competitive college basketball leagues in America. No doubt about it. Last year in particular really spoke for itself. Just following the Big East, the different storylines, it was incredibly competitive, and seems like it's going to be the same way this season as well.
Definitely. And, kind of getting to this season, you obviously, you inherit a solid team. I know you've brought in some people and talk about that as well. But, for you coming in, as a new head coach, with this group of guys, what has the offseason been like? What is, what's a Sean Miller team? What's the DNA that you're trying to, instill in, like I said, a group of guys that, they won the NIT, they've had some success, and obviously you're looking to another great year this year.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan, for sure. I think any coach that takes over a new program, there's great responsibility to, do two things right away: hire a great staff, best staff that you can put together, and do it in a, unfortunately, do it in a fast way, right? One thing about college basketball, it's not like you have 6 months to decide, but to get that right. And then secondly, I think to really look at who's in your program, the players themselves, who fits, who may be looking for a different type of opportunity. And, day one, what I came in here with is if you'd like to come back and be a part of our program and you are a returning player, you have a clean slate, we'd love to have you. I know Travis Steele, and things didn't work out for Travis after 4 years, but I inherited a program that has plenty of veteran leadership, talent. We have good size. We have some really good perimeter players. And then, like you mentioned, I like the new guys that weren't here a year ago that we've added. But this isn't a broken rebuilding project. This is a program that has really knocked at the door very hard in each of the last several years to make the NCAA tournament and to have that success that Xavier's accustomed to. And I think our charge as a new staff and me as a coach is, to see if we can cultivate this group and have a better February and maybe break through a door that we've been really close to going through in the previous years. And me being here for 8 years, 3 years as an assistant coach and then 5 years as a head coach, that really serves me well because although I've been gone for some time, I understand how Xavier works. I know the city of Cincinnati. I don't know the Big East from a coaching perspective, but like I just mentioned a little bit ago, I rely a lot on my time as a college basketball player and know how tough-minded you have to be to win in this conference. So I think really in a nutshell, what we're trying to do is look at it kind of in this next 6-7 month period of time and see if we can get over that hump.
Yeah.
And I do believe that we have a great group to work with.
Yeah. And that group, I do think in the era of transfers, how easy it is to kind of, jump ship, especially, I shouldn't say jump ship, there's a lot of reasons that go into it, but especially with a coaching change, I'd say, by all means, a player, should have that, and they do, that opportunity, to go elsewhere. The fact that you came in, obviously, is a testament to you, but also to the players to kind of see the vision that they had for Xavier, despite the coaching change. And like I said, a huge testament to you as well. They're trusting you, but to have those guys, stay, thinking about some all conference, you have Zach, you have Jack in the front court, obviously Colby Jones, had a great run last year, big expectations for him, but just, what does it tell you about them, their willingness to say, and I know there's several others, to stay with Xavier and to, see your mission and your vision moving forward?
Well, no, you're right in that I think they sensed that they've been just so close. I mean, in some cases, it's a single moment. If you look back to last season, the Xavier game at Providence, which was just an epic Big East regular season game that went into, I believe, multiple overtimes and could have been won or lost 5 or 6 different times by Xavier. But if that game goes our way, there could be a different storyline here as time moved on. But it didn't, and I think sometimes the fans and just people that love our program, they focus on those single moments. I think for us, it's kind of what you said. To give everybody a clean slate, to introduce our program, to try to improve each player, to really invest in them. When I said to them, it doesn't really matter what happened before I came. That's both the good and the bad. We're going to judge you on today moving forward. And you mentioned a couple names of our players, but Jack Nungy, Zach Freemantle, and Colby Jones, they're all talented in their own right, but they're all equally experienced. And in today's world of college basketball, to have both returning starters, potential all-conference players, people that have already made all conference returning back, as upperclassmen. You don't often see that, and I think it's up to us to take advantage of it. And that's to my point. It's not about a broken program. It's about a program that's been so close, and now can we get over the hump and potentially never look back? But I've been really impressed with our team. They've done what we've asked. They really bought into our strength and conditioning program this off season. And I think they're hungry and eager. Not a lot of sugar has been given out here over the last 3 or 4 years. The narrative of pulling up short and having a coach that loses his job and moves to another program. I don't think that's lost on our players. I think they want to respond and get things back in good order.
Yeah, definitely. And just a couple more if you have time. Is that good? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Um, you had mentioned, obviously you played in the Big East. It is a little bit of a difference, style of play with the Pac-12. I grew up, like I said, in the Northeast on Big East Atlantic 10 basketball. I also spent, a lot of time at UCLA watching Pac-12 basketball. Does your coaching style, do you think that will change in any way? In terms of, I feel like not, because you're coaching, you're trying to coach the best, get the best out of your basketball players. But there obviously is a difference in terms of I do think kind of the toughness and the pace of play. Maybe you probably, a lot more than me, but between the Big East and the Pac-12, is there a difference in terms of your approach, seeing that difference in conference?
My approach will be very similar. I would say that all of us as coaches, you have to evolve. The game isn't the same in any conference today as it was 5 years ago. Certainly, a decade ago, it's a completely different game. And that's not just relative to the Big East Conference. That's NBA, FIBA, college basketball. Comparing the Pac-12 to the Big East, again, me being on this side of the country for most of my life, playing and then coaching at Xavier and different places that I coached before I went out west. I would say one thing about the Pac-12 is the Pac-12 is blessed with an enormous amount of individual talent. Players getting picked in the first round, young players being picked in the lottery, an abundance of players in multiple drafts just coming from all different types of programs. Between DeAndre Ayton that I coached, Markel Fultz, Lonzo Ball. I mean, you start to name these names, and it's like these are guys that are the number one pick in the NBA draft that have played against the teams that I coached, but also on some of the teams that I coached. And the Pac-12 is a very up and down conference. Like the tempo is fast. It's not fast every single night, but for the most part, when you compare the Pac-12 to others or the Big East, the tempo and the possessions are more plentiful. I'm aware of that, So I think that looking at the Big East Conference, what these programs and coaches have just done just a great job of building is, getting retention right, having young players grow within their program. Villanova is a great example. Creighton, great example, where young players come into the conference and contribute, grow, and then you look at them as third and fourth year players. And guess what? They're all Big East performers. I think in general, the Big East Conference is an older, more experienced, seasoned league when it comes to the way the rosters are built. And I do think that the style is grittier. It's tougher. It's not always as fast and free flowing as the Pac-12. So I think those are things that I'm well aware of. But the style in general that I believe in has some of that to it. We'll see if it's reflected when you watch us play. But back to my point. So if that's what the Big East has become, and maybe those teams that have retained their best players and are a little bit older, they've been successful. That's kind of the makeup of our team this year. And it's up to us to be able to take advantage of that.
Xavier's gotten recently a couple 2023 commits. Obviously, like I said, you're coming in, you're focused on this year, but that's part of you building, the next era of Sean Miller, basketball at Xavier University. Can you speak a little bit just about, Trey? I know Reed. I know there's a couple still that, Xavier's at the top of their list. How important it's been for you to, kind of get some of these early commits, some high quality guys, obviously Sean Miller guys into the program. How important is that, for you? Moving forward?
Yeah, I'm not allowed by NCAA rules to comment on a commitment. They would have
Okay.
to be signed. But, I can speak on the three players that are part of our program already. And that's Cam Kraft and Des Claude, who are freshmen, and Sule Boom, who's graduated already, transferred most recently from UTEP, where he was a very, very good player for UTEP. So those are our three newcomers. Obviously, we recruited to an extent all three of them, right?
Yeah.
Keeping Cam Kraft and allowing him to stay with his original commitment. Ditto for Des. Des signed with us this spring, and then obviously Sule, where we convinced him to transfer here. But I think that in their own right, all three of those guys are going to have really good seasons. And Cam and Des, I think the bigger picture is they have just such a bright future. Des Claude, a lot of people, when you talk about a big guard, that everybody wants to be a big guard, but when you really watch a guy play, sometimes he's like, well, he's more of a wing, but he wants to be a guard, so we'll call him a big guard.
Yeah.
When it comes to Des, he truly is an outstanding guard, but he's got great size. I mean, he's every bit 6'5". He has long arms and a huge frame, and he is a point guard, and he could play with a point guard as a combo. And I think the sky's the limit for him. We're looking forward to adding him, because the one thing we lost from last year's team is a number of good guards that really contributed throughout the year. Paul Scruggs, Nate Johnson, Dwan Odom. So we have to replace those guys. Cam Kraft, 6'6", 6'5", a great shooter and somebody who's more than a shooter. I think he's a really good player. But when you have that special skill at that size, I mean, you're a valuable player on day one. And I think he brings that 3-point shooting and ability to shoot the ball and score in a really big way. And I've just been really – I love their work ethic. And I would say that those two players right there, freshmen, I look at as being able to almost play in any program in the country. We're thrilled to have them. And then Sule Boom, we really got a need. Yeah. Again, with youth, he's an experienced guard, again, who could play on and off the ball. And if you look at his career at UTEP, his scoring, his ability to shoot, and then I think being another ball handler in the backcourt is something we really, really needed. But Sule is a great kid, different in that he's, again, older. He's already graduated from college, and I think he's going to give us that much needed experience in the backcourt as well. So, but, bigger picture in terms of your original question, recruiting is the lifeblood of college sports, college basketball in particular. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. We want to build through high school recruiting, blend some international flavor to that. And then in a given moments in the spring, maybe mix in that right transfer that can accompany what we already have. But having said that, Nathan, being able to keep your top talent, your best players, and really investing in them, letting them grow inside Xavier and allowing them to be upperclassmen like Jack, Zach, and Colby are this year, and Adam Kunkel as well. That's really what we're trying to cultivate here. So we're at the beginning stages of what I hope is a lot of great moments.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Like I said, I'm looking forward to it. As we've talked about, it's a deep, deep league. Obviously, it's, we got some time, I think 60 plus days. So a lot of time to get things managed, but I appreciate your time just kind of talking a little bit about the off season and everything. I appreciate it. I do cover the A10. I got to ask, do we have a better chance of a Xavier URI non-conference game, or the basketball gods maybe giving us a brother matchup in a Sweet 16 one day?
I think if you watch Rhode Island and Xavier play with myself and my brother coaching against each other, it would be in the NCAA tournament. And you know what? I think we both would sign up for that matchup, right? But in regular season, there's zero chance of that. It's just it's too hard. And when you love somebody, you don't want to put them in a position to win or lose. So I'm just going to cheer like crazy for Rhode Island, and hope that one day, if we do play, it would be in March Madness.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Sean.
You got it, Nathan. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.